So you can go now.
Yeah, my name is Ikechi, and I am an agribusiness expert. And the topic of my presentation is growth strategies to thrive in Africa's agribusiness. And I have a slide of it to share so that you will enjoy the presentation. And of course, we know that that Africa's agriculture sector is a major sector, is a primary sector, is a traditional sector, and is a real sector which has over time contributed meaningfully to the economy of the continent. So virtually all the nations of Africa have significant has recorded significant improvement through the agriculture sector. So, yeah. Now, permit me to first of all give some definition of some terms which are key to the presentation. Growth. Now, what is growth? Growth is a process of increase in size, stature, or status with desirable increases in various facets of life. We can see that strategy, on the other hand, is a plan of action designed to achieve a long-term or overall goal or aim or objective or purpose. Now, agribusiness, what is agribusiness all about? Agribusiness simply means the business side of agriculture, the business aspect of agriculture, and of course we know that that agriculture is comprised of crops, livestock, fisheries, and forestry. So, and of course, agriculture means the practice of cultivation of core crops, rearing of livestock for the purpose of output and profit maximization. And of course, there's a diagram here which is, which clearly explains the agriculture or the agribusiness system, because we need to clearly give a good background of agribusiness. So we can see that agribusiness features in the input sector. It also features in the production sector, and of course the processing and manufacturing sectors from the diagram. And then the next diagram is also, it was developed by Mendes and Poshan, 2017. This was a recommendation for internationally traded businesses. And of course, we can see how the agriculture sector affects every other sector. Like I earlier pointed out, that the agriculture sector is a primary sector of which other sectors depend on it for each to operate or function. Yeah. And the next slide is an overview of a growth strategy. We are looking at what growth strategies to adopt. What growth strategy am I proposing as an agribusiness expert throughout my my period of study, throughout my period of my experience as in this sector? Yeah, a growth strategy is a plan of action to increase a business market share. Yeah. So if a business, of course, our focus on agribusiness, if an agribusiness or an agro enterprise must expand, the market growth strategy must be employed to enable it chart the expansion growth path, or to enable it to chart the course of its breaking forth of its of course the growth path, the growth corridors, taking into account the industry, that is the target market, as well as the finances involved. Yeah. What I want us to look at the goals. We need to anticipate. We need to, give an outline, even if it's a broad outline of most African agribusinesses. What are they focusing on? Their focus mainly is to, expose Black-owned agribusinesses, especially African agribusinesses, to international markets. And of course, we are happy with the African Union's African Continental Free Trade Area Agreements, which is geared towards promoting trade within Africa, intra-Africa trade. And of course, the focus is also to support agribusinesses to attend international and local trade shows in collaboration with industries and other agencies. And then the strategic goal also is to identify export-ready agribusinesses and support them with exporting their produce. And then the strategic outcome is what? Strategic outcome is beyond what I wrote here. But for some agencies, like the National Agricultural Marketing Council, which this presentation is also dedicated to, and to all agribusiness owners, to all farmers in Africa who have, who are really making every effort, struggling, and also trying to navigate all the challenges and bring about transformation, drive their livelihoods, and also ensure efficiency and effectiveness in their sector. So strategic outcomes is to support 15 agribusinesses to attend international trade shows, and also to support 15 agribusinesses to attend local shows and interact with buyers. And then the next slide is actually a diagram of a growth strategy. Growth strategies most times has 4 stages or 4 steps or 4 frontiers. Now, the first one is market penetration. And after market penetration, gets market development. And after market development, we can now talk about product development and then diversification. And we can see from the diagram that, the first stage is market penetration, which is to focus on selling existing products, services to our existing market to achieve growth in the market. And the second stage is product development and not market development. And so, it goes down to diversification, which is very clear that, of course, markets that have also, have been able to penetrate, to get their customers, to get their buyers of their product, and also after the product has been developed, and also the market has been developed. So, and what is the clear focus of market development is on developing new products or services for existing markets. And lastly is diversification, which is focused on development of new products to sell into new markets. So remember, our focus is on agribusiness, and it surrounds crop, livestock, forestry, and fishery products. And these are all very significant in agribusiness. And we can see also from the diagram, the next slide, which clearly explains how a startup, most African agribusinesses, can be categorized, into a different dimension. Somehow, startups, and when an agribusiness starts up, what are the activities? How will you outline the activities? How will you outline the operations? Defining product and market niches, designing a business model, developing a business plan, establishing management team, safeguarding competitive advantage, create own brand, because it's very important. It's very important because, when you are getting into the market, we need every principle. We need to understand the principles of marketing. When we are operating in this stage or in the corridors of African agribusinesses, we need to, because there are many countries who are doing well in cocoa production within Africa, doing well in coffee. For example, we know that Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, and Nigeria, and even Zambia some countries of the SADC, they do well in cocoa production. And we have seen also that some countries also have, they do well in coffee production and, among other commodities, so as in livestock and in, those forestry products and fishery products as well. And, of course, we have catfish, we have tilapia, I'm talking of fish, and also the fishery sector touches on periwinkle, and and we have to take into consideration that most African agribusinesses are smallholder businesses, and over time they have driven transformation. They have been driving transformation. So after startup, initial growth, and that is another stage. Just like when a child is born, the child passes through stages before it gets mature, before we get to the stage of maturity. And we need to reckon with the strength, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats of every stage. So just like every business, every agribusiness. Then the initial growth stage, we can see that stage they are supposed to be able to gain market share. They're supposed to ensure product differentiation. Of course, the first stage also has, differentiating own product, but it has to be clearly differentiated in the second stage, which is the initial growth, and that's where we are. Now, acquiring repeat customers, broadening channels, revenue and management team, and training of staff. And the rapid growth is the third stage. And of course, for every African agribusiness, we have to clearly recreate products in the rapid growth stage, and the competitive strategies, training of business executive and encouraging staff, broadening territories, establishing conviction in growth among staff. And also the last stage, which talks about sustainability, that is to have growth, to record growth, continuously. Now, establishing a stable business system is important. To have like an inclusive business system, to, of course, maintaining growth strategy is very important, and also determining the innovative system. Maybe, of course, we encourage every practitioner in the agriculture sector, of which agribusiness is also part of, majorly part of, because we know that Africa has not done well in agribusiness, because most of our products we have not encouraged it as we are supposed to. Our governments, sadly, our governments and our youths, and who are very vibrant, and the players have not played well. They have not driven the sector properly. Yeah, so, and of course, we can see that to ensure continuous growth, there is need for facilitation, flexibility, and speed. The next slide, please. The next slide is talking about 6 powerful business growth strategies for small businesses. You can see market penetration as one. We can see market development as second. And we can even see alternative channels in the 3. We can see product expansion in the 4th, and we can see market segmentation in the 5th. And lastly is partnerships. It's very important to, because, can I say that building partnership is very important, because, of course, we have, lots of institutions, we have lots of, players, key players, we have, intermediaries, and those who are involved in every agribusiness activity, from the place of production to where that commodity is needed. So these are very powerful strategies for small businesses, because of course we know that most businesses, like I pointed out earlier, most agribusinesses in Africa are smallholder based. Now these are also some strategies for marketing. And these are all, growth strategies. Strategies for human resources must be clearly outlined. Please, it must be clearly outlined. I am recommending every agribusiness sector, whether from production to the end user. Remember, I had already laid out the plan that the agribusiness sectors can operate either in the input sector, production sector, or in the processing or marketing stage or process. Yeah, so we need to understand that every agribusiness must strategize for human resources. We must strategize for new branches. We must strategize for products. It's very, very important. And you can see that they are clearly outlined. And for human resources, strengthening business foundation and improving services is very important. Securing and cultivating human resources, constructing concrete organizational framework is very important. And then going down to strategizing for products, decreasing food loss is very important to ensure that food wastage is controlled, and also simplifying procedures by reviewing menu composition. And then of course, strengthening a handmade feel and hygiene quality. And then also expanding for food services to food and clothing services, because most of these products are all from the agriculture sector. And also we have to strategize for new branches. And those, to strategize for new branches is securing profit and speeding up the process of opening new branches, strengthening our branches with cross-sectional cooperation, and of course, speeding up the process of opening new branches with adjoining laundromats. Yeah. So, and the next slide is actually growth strategy explained. I had to explain it in these bullet forms, as as indicated. There's I used to look at the Ansoff matrix diagram, which is one of them, which I cited. Of course, he talked about involving increasing market share for market penetration among the key players like the middlemen in an existing market. Also, there are common methods which includes lowering prices or using techniques like direct marketing from the producer or manufacturer or farmer to the final consumer. So you can see even in a food distribution channel or from the producer to the final consumer, you can see that and why must it be clearly stated or spelled out is to create customer awareness of our offering. The market development, of course, strategy is about entering a new market with existing products. A new market can refer to a different geography. For example, international expansion, a new segment of customers, or new channel to reach customers, such as adding an online store to complete brick and mortar location. And then growth strategy explained continued. For product development, you can see that the strategy involves creating new products for existing markets, especially food and agricultural markets. Then this can be as simple as fruit and veggies shop, offering mixes, selected products, or as complex as introducing an entirely different product line, like in the fruit and veg shop began selling ice cream. You can see that. And of course, diversification, which holds the greatest risk of failure. It creates new products for new markets and implies that the business is a trailblazer. The business has, is navigating, is also breaking new grounds, and also coming up with strategies on how to deploy every resources of, every marketing strategies to get established. Yeah. As a result, it's very challenging to know how to succeed, although the rewards are very high at the end of the day. Yeah, so whichever growth strategy that is employed, we will be able to utilize some business development principles, since the goal is to develop the entire organization. Now, the next slide. I had to look clear. I had to really do some research with respect to growth strategies that can work, that I will be bold to recommend for African agribusinesses. whether in the ECOWAS region of Africa or whether in the SADC region, which is very dear to me, the region where I had lived, and I enjoy that region. And of course, the COMESA also cuts across the SADC region, that is the Southern African Development Community countries, and then also the community countries that the COMESA region, which is the community of East African and Southern African countries. And I want to propose even that for the Northern African countries, which are about 5 countries, which are Libya, Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia, and Algeria, and the other 54 countries of Sub-Saharan Africa. It's always good to learn from countries that are thriving in agribusiness, I tell you. Most of the countries that have developed successfully have worked on the whole agribusiness value chain, from production to marketing. And some factors to consider in boosting African agribusiness trend. I have some pictures to show you, but before that, can I propose for enhancing agricultural productivity as the first strategy? How do we go about that? First of all, we have to reckon that low productivity of African agribusinesses has always been attributed to, largely to the limited use of industrial inputs, as well as significant post-harvest losses, which are recorded, after harvest of that commodity. And of course, it results from inadequate storage facilities, packaging, transport facilities in many areas. And then also some of productivity drivers will be related and elucidated in the next series, because this is the part 1 of this presentation. The part 2 will be coming up next month. By the grace of God, the National Agricultural Marketing Council of South Africa will be having me present growth strategies for African agribusiness for the part 2 session. And then we can see some of the pictures I earlier mentioned to you, that you can see that African farmers are younger than we think. So we are actually succeeding with respect to all strategies we are deploying, trying to break into the perception problem of our youths, the youths of Africa, who have been found to be very instrumental in driving transformation through the agribusiness sector. The agribusiness sector is very interesting and will be very important for African youths to play into it. So we welcome every youth of Africa. Ubuntu, the youths of Africa, this is the time for you to arise. Arise with every energy that you have. Arise, oh African youths, the African youths. I doff my cap for you. I greet you, the African youths. I greet also the women. These 2 categories of the gender are very important in driving transformation in Africa, in building up the GDP. In building up the GDP of Africa, in building up, building up the foreign exchange base of Africa. Ubuntu, the youths of Africa. Now, the next stage, or the next proposed point that I am proposing for the African youths is upgrading value chains. Successful agribusinesses. Successful agribusinesses have employed this successful agribusiness growth strategy, which depends upon improving along the value chain, improvements along the value chain. What is this value chain we are talking about? Every key player has value that it adds in the channel. So, and they form a chain, a framework. They form a channel. And from efficient post-harvest policies to technologies in processing, storage, packaging, transportation, marketing, and of every aspect. I tell you, even like, in the, distribution channel, you can see how every, broker engages in brokering activities. That is every activities of trying to transport move products from the farm gate after, getting them harvested, matured for the livestock. When in the poultry section, in the piggery, in the cattle, depending on any agribusiness that you are, practicing, even in the piggery, anywhere. Is it for the smallholders? Like here in Africa, we have we have the grass cutters, we have the snailries, those that even those in the apiculture practicing, trying to get a very conducive environment to produce honey. And of course, we know that every aspect of the agribusiness sector is important. And then so we need to upgrade value chains. And then, of course, participation in modern value chains can increase farmers' income by between 10 and 100%, according to evidence from Guatemala, in also Indonesia and Kenya. Yeah, and also transforming agricultural raw materials into industrial product depends increasingly on the capacity of African agribusiness entrepreneurs to participate in global, regional, local value chains. This will also be continued in the second part during the National Agricultural Marketing Council's presentation seminar. Yeah, and the second point is exploiting local. We need to exploit local, regional, and international demand. It's very important. We need to, realize that emerging market exports have over time expanded very rapidly in recent decades. And we can see that growth has been fast. It's been fastest in manufacturing and much slower in agriculture, where significant protection remains. Now, using data for the 1980 to 2001 period, we can see, it includes that although there have been far-reaching changes in global trading patterns in the past 25 years, there has been relatively little structural change in global agricultural trade flows. This was reported by Akosi in 2004. And then progress towards the liberalization of agricultural trade has been slow and fitful, with some reverses in recent years, notably in emerging markets. Now, in the Uruguay period round of 1995, that was when the World Trade Organization was still GATT, that's the General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs, failed to secure any meaningful reductions in agricultural protection in developed countries. So, though there has been movement in the early 2000s, and arising mostly from the strong increase in food and other agricultural commodity prices in recent years. For you to get to know this further, you have to be present in the part 2 session in September next month. Now, also, the fourth point is strengthening our technological efforts and innovation capabilities. Now, technological change takes two distinct forms: learning by doing and also research and development expenditure in innovation. And it's crucial for the development of agribusiness in Africa. Learning by doing is technological change derived from experience. An increase in input uses, generates a higher input productivity as individuals become more efficient over time. And of course, learning by doing is said to be a free cost in the sense that productivity is increased without specific investment in research and development. And in fact, free cost is a misnomer because learning by doing effects are not automatic. Yeah, and then the next slide, you can see diagrams. You can see pictures of different aspects of agribusiness. You can meet young agripreneurs who are raking millions. You can see in the crop side, the agribusiness owner has harvested is, checking whether the product has harvested, and the poultry, the woman who has, the entrepreneur who has a poultry, and then also the man who has, you can see the maize farm, and also the lady down, showing you their beautiful harvest of crops. And of course, the farm manager is at the extreme top. And okay, lastly, the growth strategy that I am proposing for African agribusiness is promoting an effective and and also an innovative financing. Finance is very important for agribusiness entrepreneurs in Africa. We need to deploy every resource in ensuring that we have credit facilities. We have we have access to even maybe Bank of Agriculture or microfinance institutions, microfinance banks because they are the banks that can help African agribusinesses which are smallholder based, and also so promoting financing and investment in agribusiness requires attention in two critical areas. The first one is facilitating pooled funding for agribusiness that uses the public sector to leverage resources from the private sector, and also creating the enabling conditions for local resource accumulation and investment. Then also concerning the first issue, the key to unleashing resources from the private sector is to increase profitability, reducing of risk, and mobilization of both traditional and innovative sources of finance. And also, it is very important for for us to emphasize that long-term investments can be promoted most efficiently in locations that have favorable investment climate, and also enabling infrastructure combined with solid agricultural supply and innovation capabilities leading to competitive value chain operations. Now, efforts will need to focus on large-scale resource mobilization, improvements in financial infrastructure, innovative models, among others, to mention a few, to be continued next month as well. Yeah, the next slide is a picture of how the young people are practicing the blessings of the fourth industrial revolution. And of course, we are championing and promoting for and encouraging for a scientific and more technologically driven agriculture. And that this is all about. That is when the youths will get more interested and start coming into every aspect of the agribusiness sector. Yeah, is it in the input side, or in the production side, or even in the marketing side? Or they can even play roles in in the area of encouraging for like logistics. Yeah. So, and also the next slide, last words, developing a growth strategy is very important, but even more in executing on the strategy. The next slide, the next point is employing actionable steps in measuring results against the forecasted model to ensure that we are headed in the right direction. Lastly, if not, do not hesitate to adjust. With a well-developed growth strategy in hand, we can increase our chances of successfully expanding our business scope. And conclusion, before we conclude, you can also see, an agribusiness setup. This is processing. You can see how women, even young youths, are all over, playing one role or the other. Conclusion, the second issue, that's of creating the right enabling environment, like I had already pointed out, is equally pressing. Pressing to what? To ensure local communities, local governments, non-governmental organizations, and the private sector to mobilize their own resources to invest in agribusiness. These are stakeholders, encouraging the government to come out and play the roles they are supposed to play. We cannot talk about agribusiness when our agriculture is not strong, when our agriculture is not developed, when our agriculture sector is broken. We must have to encourage farmers. We must have to ensure that farmers every policy that touches on their, effectivity, their productivity must be encouraged. Identifying the right types of investment and public actions which crowd in rather than crowd out private investment is a key to developing productive agribusiness capacities. Ultimately, the onus of increasing investment and facilitating the financing of agribusiness in Africa lies with us, the policymakers, African policymakers. Whether Africans in Africa or Africans outside of Africa, that is Africans in diaspora, by making the sector more attractive and sustainably profitable. Now, this is a clarion call to the African Youth Diaspora Organization. This is a clarion call to the African Development Diaspora Institute. This is a clarion call for all the African diaspora groups, for them to look into how to build up African agribusinesses. Let's meet Africa. Let's meet Africa and do business. Let's meet Africa and do business. Thank you. Now, I am not just thanking you. I am also smiling at you. Whether you are a man, a woman, or an African youth, I'm encouraging you. I have done, I have been in this space for a while, in this agribusiness sector. Of course, you can see from this slide where I was invited for an interview, and I have been championing the cause. I have been proactive. I have been, championing that African agribusinesses must be encouraged, not just with aids. We need to look beyond aids. This is time for, the African Union's African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, all the nations of Africa, about 59 nations in Africa, for us to work together. For us to work together, you can see it, that we are very serious about it. We are very intentional about inclusiveness, deploying every strategy to build Africa's agribusiness sector. And I have not stopped about, to talk about food security. Of course, we know that food security is very important. It's very important in economic development. When inhabitants, when we have not eaten, because we have seen that Africa's most important needs now, Africa's agribusiness sector, is on how to build more factories, how to industrialize Africa's agriculture sector. It's very important. And that takes us to markets. And this is why this video was also created, has also been made. Thank you for listening, and also thank you for being intentional with my very self, Professor Ikechi Agbugba. Thank you.